Alright, today I'm going to teach you guys how to build this Humidor cigar display case. It features a hinged glass front door, 3 Spanish cedar lined drawers that are removable, glass sides, and a solid wood back. So let's get started. After the pieces are roughly cut, I'm going to rip the sides down to 1.5 inches, and then the top and the bottom are going to be 12 by 10 inches. Next, I'm going to cut the slots in the top and bottom where I can join the sides up. I got these measurements by just laying the side pieces across the top and bottom for the width, and then I did the thickness on this side. That'll give me a nice tight fit when I cut that out the bandsaw. Okay guys, after the bandsaw and with the help of some quick clamps, we can see how our joints are coming together. Nice tight joints after some careful measurement. I think that's going to look pretty nice after some sanding. Won't even be able to see them. Now our next challenge, like I said, the sides are going to be glass. So we got to cut some grooves in the back, or dados, so that the glass panels can sit up alongside of the sides. The front is also going to have glass and 2 styles. That's going to be a hinged door, and the back is just going to be solid wood. So we'll take this down, cut our grooves in the sides. Alright, after some careful thought about how I was going to put the glass on the side of the display case, I decided that I was just going to use a saw blade kerf and make a groove on the inside of all my side pieces and the insides of my top and bottom. I think that's going to be the best way to go about it. I was going to use a dado and then just butt the glass up to it, but then I was thinking about how the glass was going to stay. I don't really want to glue it because there's going to be some wood movement, so I think I'm just going to cut an oversized groove with the blade saw kerf, and we'll see how that works out. I've had some luck with it. I've done it before, so I think it's going to work out pretty good. So as it turns out, the kerf of the saw blade was actually a perfect width for the glass to fit in there. It allows just a little bit of wiggle room for some wood movement. I'm very happy with that. I think that's going to work for us. So we're getting ready to cut the glass. Our groove is about a little shy of 3/8 of an inch. So when we go to cut our glass, we'd want to measure from this point here and then add about 1/2 inch to account for our 2 grooves on each side, for the sides and the top and bottom. Glass cutting. Simple concept. I find it very, very hard to do. You use this little wheelie thing. It has a carbide wheel on there, and then you just run it along the glass. For some reason, I guess I don't know what I'm doing with it. It always ends up being a disaster. So I'm going to cut the pieces slightly undersized to fit in the grooves to allow for expansion. It happens to be 7 1/4 by 20 1/4. So I'm going to take a straight edge, put it up on the glass where my measurements are, take the wheelie thing, strike a line, and it should break right off. I always overbuy when I'm working with glass because I know something's going to go wrong. Let's give it a try. Okay, so I sanded it down, put a couple coats of Danish oil on it. Trust me, you're going to want to finish this stuff before you put the glass in, or you're just going to run into a whole bunch of problems. Next, I'm going to attach the sides to the top and bottom, and I'm going to do this by using screws. I'm going to pre-drill so I don't get any splitting. Okay, so it's all assembled. Looks good. I was going to originally put the ebony plugs on inside of the screw holes, but I think I found a better solution to that. I made up these things here that are going to go and cover up the screw holes. It just gives it a nice little, just that little extra design element that I think makes it look real nice. We'll glue that on there. I know I said I wasn't going to glue, but I was thinking about it. I need some glue on this thing. But I realized one crucial error that I made, and that involves the top. I cut these grooves all the way through. So instead of taking it all apart and redoing it, I think I'm just going to cut another piece for the top and glue it on top of there. Alright, so I just put the back on and the side stiles. I think it came out nice. Next I'm going to work on the top. I think I'm going to make it with a 1/2 inch overhang on each side. Alright, so the top came out nice. I like that 1/2 inch overhang. I decided to do the same thing on the bottom. It just looked a little weird without that there. So we're going to glue it up. I like it that way. And then we'll be ready to work on the door. Okay, got the top and the clamps. Gonna let that dry for a couple hours, then clamp the bottom. While that's drying, I'll work on the door. To give the top of our door some character, I'm going to put a nice circle, or a radius, on the top part of the door panel. I'm going to do that by using some careful measurements. I'm going to come in 1.5 inches off of the side and down from the top. Do that with my marking gauge. Now that I've got where I want our radius to start, I'm just going to take a couple different circles, size circles, and see which radius I like the best out of all of them. I'm thinking this one's just about perfect. We'll go and scribe our line. Then we'll cut that out at the bandsaw. Alright guys, there's our door. Now the next challenge on the door is going to be putting the glass inside. We're going to do the same thing we did on the sides. We're just going to take it over to the table saw, cut a groove. Now the challenge is going to be cutting the groove in this radius here. Obviously we can't just run this across the table saw blade flat. So what I'm thinking we're going to do is carefully cut this on the line and then glue it back on, and then just put our groove in the separate pieces. See how that turns out. Alright, I cut the grooves in the door panel. So instead of trying to send this over the table saw blade or cut it and lose that, the grain continuity, what I did was I just made another piece and I put a giant groove going through the center of it. That way I'll just put this over top of it as a template, cut that out, and then I'll have a groove going all the way through. Just got back from the bandsaw. That worked out perfectly. I got a groove running all the way through. That way we don't have to sacrifice any of the green. Now that the door is glued up, I'm going to set that aside and let it dry. Next step is going to be putting the shelves in. I'm going to have 3 shelves. I'm going to have them on a little bit of an angle. So let's go cut those up. After my pieces are milled up at the table saw, I want to get my angle of where my shelves are going to be. To get this, I just line it up where it looks good to me. Like I said, there's going to be 3 of them in there. I think that's a pretty good angle. Then I just take my pencil, scribe a line, bring that angle over to the miter saw. Now that I've got the angle for the back, all I have to do is butt that piece up against the back of the box and then scribe a line so it's flush with the face of my side rails. Then go cut it at the miter saw. Now that I've got the sides cut out, I can start making the bottom of the shelves. I use some spring clamps to hold the shelves in position while I get the measurement from in between them. To get the angle we need for the front and back of our drawer shelves, I'm just going to take the angle we already have that we cut at the miter saw and transfer it so it's perfect right up against that table saw blade. Then we can lock it down and we'll have that exact angle. Alright, I got all 3 of my drawers all glued up. I'm gonna let those dry overnight and then put some Danish oil on it tomorrow. Then I'll be ready to put them in. Okay guys, so I got my door glued up and I put the hinges on. Couple of problems with these non-mortise hinges. One, the screws are too long and they protrude through the thickness of our door. That's okay, I'll just knock those back, and I'm thinking about putting some decorative banding or something to cover those screw holes up. And the second problem is I got these non-mortise hinges. Well, as you can see, the screw heads don't sit flush with the hinge. So when I close the door, that's as far as the door gets closed without some force. So what I'm going to have to do is just plow out some material here and here so those screw heads have something to go into so the door will sit flush. I'll just use a Forstner bit to take out some material there. Alright, we're down to the final steps on how to mount the drawers. So I don't feel like putting screws in the side or nails. I didn't want to glue them just in case somebody wanted to take them out of there. So I'm just going to use like shelf pins. What I did was I drilled screws into the side here as shelf pins and just drilled this material out on the bottom, and it seems to be working good, so we'll put that final one in. Okay, putting in the final drawer, I want to make sure that all 3 drawers are equally spaced apart. So I just made up a 3.5 inch piece of wood that I use as a spacer block. Then after I got that spacer block in there, I'll just scribe a line at the bottom where we're going to drill our holes. Okay guys, so here it is complete. All the hardware's on. I got my drawers installed. The hinges work. Inside drawers are lined. I think it came out real nice. It's going to be a cigar humidor display case. Let me know what you guys think.